I swear, I just wish she'd vanish. She's unbearable, always stirring up tension, always pushing everyone to the edge. Every day, it's something new. Oh, absolutely. Let's just get rid of her. I have an idea, leave it to me. My husband's voice sliced through the air, followed by the sharp trill of my mother-in-law's laughter from the living room. It was cold, piercing, like ice through my chest. My heart clenched, my knees weakened, and I found myself frozen in place. Just moments ago, I had been excited to step through that door. After 2 weeks away, I was looking forward coming home. I had even picked up Jake's favorite bourbon during my trip, thinking tonight could be special. We'd sit together as a family, share a quiet drink, and maybe, just maybe, reconnect. I had smiled at the thought on the train ride home. But the moment I walked in, their words twisted my reality into something cruel. They were plotting to get rid of me. 10 years, a full decade of my life devoted to this family, and in an instant, it all felt like dust in the wind. I thought about the early mornings spent making breakfast, the late nights cooking dinners tailored to their tastes, the weekends spent planning meals they would enjoy. Every effort, every sacrifice, it had all been for nothing. But Madison, my mother-in-law, had always found a way to ruin it. She would take one look at my meals, curl her lips in disdain, and wave a dismissive hand. Food made by someone with no class isn't fit for us, she would say with casual cruelty. And each time, I swallowed my pride and started over. A month ago, on my birthday, Jake had claimed he was stuck at work, unable to make a home for dinner. Later, I learned the truth. He had been out with Madison, indulging in a lavish meal at an upscale restaurant. They hadn't even bothered to call. Now, standing in the hallway, every buried emotion surged forward like a tidal wave. Anger, hurt, betrayal. I could hear them laughing, casually discussing how to push me out of my own home, like I was nothing more than an inconvenience to eliminate. My fingers tightened around the handle of my suitcase. My name is Sarah Green. I'm 35 years old. I'm an architect, a career I've poured my heart and soul into. My work has taken me around the world, Paris, New York, Dubai, designing spaces meant to inspire and uplift. Madison knows none of this. To her, a woman's place isn't the home. She sees my profession as nothing more than a side hobby, something I do to help out. She has no idea of the life I built for myself, the achievements I worked tirelessly to earn. I still carry my father's words with me, words that shaped my path. Beauty and design is beauty in life. After losing both of my parents in a car accident when I was 15, those words became my guiding light. I graduated at the top of my class, landed a prestigious position at a global architecture firm, and spent my 20s thriving. Relationships weren't even a priority. My work was enough. And then I met Jake. He seemed different, kind, genuinely curious about my passion. When a mutual friend introduced us, his eyes lit up with admiration. Architecture. Huh? That's incredible. For the first time, I felt seen. I believe he understood me. I believed in us. So I married him, thinking I had finally found the warmth of family I had longed for. We moved into a cozy apartment, spent weekends decorating, choosing curtains, setting a tiny potted plant on the windowsill. It was simple, but it felt real. That happiness didn't last. Less than a month after our wedding, Madison moved in, completely uninvited. "I just can't bear to be alone anymore," she had sobbed, voice trembling. Jake, visibly uncomfortable, had nodded reluctantly. "I'm sorry, Sarah. My mom's been feeling really down lately," he had said, guilt playing in his eyes. The bond between them was unbreakable. Jake's father had passed away before we met, and I understood his mother's loneliness. I saw this as a chance to build something positive with her. So I tried. I woke up early to make breakfast. I cleaned, took care of the house after exhausting days at work, gave up my weekends to make her feel welcome. But it was never enough. Madison saw me as a threat, a rival for her son's affection. Every effort I made was met with ridicule, sabotage, or outright dismissal. And now, here I was, standing just beyond the threshold of my own home, listening as they plotted to erase me from their lives. I stood there, listening to their cruel laughter, And for the first time, I questioned everything. I had always tried to create special moments for our family, planning outings, experimenting with new recipes, making sure we had time together. Sarah, you don't have to do so much. If you push yourself too hard, we'll all worry, Jake would say with a gentle smile. His words should have reassured me, but instead, they only fueled my determination. I wanted everything to be perfect, but Madison's indifference slowly turned into outright hostility. "This soup is terribly bland," she scoffed one evening. "Jake, how are you supposed to get any real nutrition from this?" Her voice was sharp, each syllable cutting through the air. "I'm sorry. I'll do better next time," I said evenly, forcing a smile even as my throat tightened. But she wasn't finished. "And just look at this laundry. So sloppy. You're always busy with work, but this? It's just sad." My hands clenched involuntarily, but I held my tongue. Then she delivered the cruelest blow. "You know, men start looking elsewhere when their wives are too wrapped up in work. Especially good men like Jake." The sting of her words was unbearable. But I endured it. I had to. This was my family now. Jake would occasionally attempt to defend me. "Mom, maybe don't say it like that," he would mumble. But one look from her, and he would shrink back, his voice fading into nothing. Each time he failed to stand up for me, something inside me cracked. Still, I kept hoping that one day Madison would accept me. One night, I shared a dream with Jake. I want to start my own architecture firm one day. I want to design spaces that bring people joy. And if I do, I'd have more time for us, too. His face lit up with a smile that, for a brief moment, made me feel like I had a real partner. "That's incredible, Sarah. You'll make it happen. I know you will." When I landed a major project, one that could cement my reputation as a serious architect, I rushed to tell him, eager for his support. At first, he seemed happy. "Wow, that's amazing, Sarah," he said. But his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. His gaze dropped, and for a fleeting second, hesitation flickered across his face. "Just make sure you don't neglect things here at home, okay? Mom's been worried." The moment the words left his mouth, Madison appeared, her hand resting firmly on his shoulder. She didn't need to say a word. Her icy stare said enough. In that moment, everything became crystal clear. Jake's insecurities, Madison's jealousy. Still, I held on to hope that one day we could truly be a family. That night shattered that illusion. I was finishing the dishes when Madison's voice rang out from the living room. "Sarah, come here. Now." The sharpness in her tone made my shoulders tense. I sighed, bracing myself as I walked into the room. The scent of alcohol lingered in the air. Sat stiffly on the couch, looking visibly uncomfortable, while Madison leaned back with a self-satisfied smirk. "So, Jake's Sarah," she drawled, her voice laced with venom. "Are you really going on business trips, or is there something else?" The accusation struck me like a slap. For a moment, I was too stunned to respond. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to stay composed. Then she pulled out a piece of paper, a divorce petition. Jake's signature was already inked at the bottom. My pulse pounded in my ears as I stared at it. His familiar handwriting blurred in my vision. "We're just keeping it ready, in case you step out of line," Madison said with a sickeningly sweet smile. "I know some good lawyers, you know." Her smugness seeped into my veins like poison. My hands trembled as memories flooded my mind. Our wedding day, the home we built together, the small moment of happiness I had clung to. "Jake," I whispered, my voice barely holding together. "What is this? Is our marriage that meaningless to you?" He wouldn't even look at me. "Well, Mom's just concerned," he muttered. "And you're gone so much now." Madison cut in, smirking. "Even Jake agrees. Always leaving the house in chaos, off on those little business trips." I turned to him, searching desperately for any trace of the man I had married. But all I saw was a boy too afraid to defy his mother. For years, I had been the one holding this house together, taking care of both of them. And this was my reward? Madison scoffed. "Always so busy, aren't you? Jake, you told me yourself, you're tired of her being gone all the time." Jake flinched, but he didn't deny it. I mean, yeah, I did say that, he admitted, his voice small, his head hanging low. Something inside me broke. The man I had trusted with my heart had chosen his mother over me, again and again. But even as anger and heartbreak surged through me, I refused to let Madison see my pain. I didn't sign the papers that night. I couldn't. Not yet. I wasn't ready to walk away from my marriage without one final fight. Hoping that distance would bring clarity, I left for a 2-week work trip to Dubai. But in the midst of my travels, an email arrived that stopped me in my tracks. Miss Green, congratulations. Your project has been shortlisted for this year's International Architecture Award. You are the first American woman to achieve this honor. My heart pounded with excitement. My father's words echoed in my mind. Architecture has the power to heal, to bring people together. As my taxi wove through Dubai's glittering skyline, I imagined Jake's reaction. Surely, this would make him see how much my career meant to me. Maybe, for the first time, he'd truly be proud. But when I arrived home, laughter drifted from the living room. I paused at the door, and then, oh God, I wish he'd just disappear. I can't stand living like this every single day. Jake's voice. My breath caught in my throat. Madison's sickly sweet tone followed, dripping with malice. Then why do we make her go? Don't worry, sweetheart. I have a plan. The suitcase in my grip suddenly felt unbearably heavy. Their words cut through me like a blade, sharper than anything Madison had ever thrown my way. I had come back eager to share my triumph, only to find them scheming against me. I stood frozen, my pulse hammering. 10 years. A decade of early mornings, sleepless nights, weekends spent cooking, cleaning, sacrificing. 10 years of making sure they were cared for, only to be discarded like I meant nothing. I clutched my phone tighter, the email still open. The achievement that should have been a moment of celebration. Their laughter rang in the background, cruel and taunting. And then a cold, unwavering realization settled over me. I wasn't just leaving this time. I was walking away on my own terms. That night, while they slept, I packed what truly mattered. I left behind the gifts, the memories, even my wedding ring. Anything tied to the life I was leaving behind. Slipping out the door, I whispered a final goodbye. 2 days later, I summoned them both to a high-end hotel downtown. The 30th floor conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows, a breathtaking view of the city, a fitting setting for what was about to unfold. Dressed in a tailored suit, I arrived early, arranging documents with precision. The award notification, project contracts, and the signed divorce papers. When they entered, confusion flickered across their faces. Jake looked disheveled, his shirt creased. Madison's usual arrogance had given way to suspicion. Please sit. Madison folded her arms. What is this, Sarah? Some desperate attempt to make a point. I met her gaze, unshaken. I called you here for closure. Sliding the award notification across the table, I spoke calmly. I was recently named a finalist for an International Architecture Award, one of the highest honors in my field. My father and I dreamed of this moment for years. Madison let out a sharp laugh. Funny, you never mentioned it. I wanted to share it with my family. I said evenly, but you both made it very clear where I stand. I reached for my phone and pressed play. The room filled with their voices. Jake's frustration, Madison's poisonous scheming. Jake's face drained to color. Sarah, that was taken out of context. There's no misinterpretation. I cut in. I heard exactly how you feel about me. Without hesitation, I pushed the divorce papers toward him. It's over. Jake reached for my hand, desperation in his eyes. Sarah, wait. Madison's composure cracked. Good riddance, she spat. You think you're better than us because of some fancy job and an award? I met her glare with unwavering resolve. No, Madison, I don't think I'm better than you, but I do know my worth. And it wasn't here. Gathering my things, I turned and walked away. Their silence followed me, but for the first time in years, I felt weightless. A month later, I stood in my new apartment, a sleek, modern high-rise overlooking the city. The view stretched for miles, an architectural masterpiece that embodied everything I loved about design. Every morning, I sipped coffee by the window, watching the sun rise over the skyline. This life was mine, built on my own terms. I reconnected with old friends, tackled exhilarating projects, and opened my own architecture firm downtown. My work flourished, and with every challenge, I felt more alive. And then, at the International Architecture Awards, my name was called. The applause was deafening as I stepped onto the stage, holding the award in my hands. Pride surged through me. This moment was everything my father and I had envisioned, every hardship, every betrayal. It had all forged me into someone stronger, unshakable, independent. As I looked out over the crowd, I knew with absolute certainty I was exactly where I was meant to be. The past no longer weighed me down. The world ahead was mine to design, and I was finally ready to build a life worth living.